Hey everyone, my name is Anne and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to crochet this super puffy sweater dress. I'll be making a small here, but sizes X small to 3X large are included in this tutorial as well, and also in the written pattern that I have linked down below. But here are the supplies you're going to be needing. So getting started on this pattern, I have my 5mm hook, and this is my category for yarn. The first thing I'm going to do is make a slip knot, and you can make this any way you would like. After this slip knot, we're going to now make a chain of 86, and to make a chain, all you want to do is just yarn over and pull through. Again, just yarn over and pull through, and just keep on doing this until you have a total of 86 chains. So I have now finished up working my chain of 86. From here, we are going to run our fingers all the way down our chain to make sure that it is not twisted. Once you reach the very end, we're going to slip stitch into the very first chain to make a loop. So I'm just going to insert my hook into that very first chain that we made, and then just yarn over and pull through both of these loops. So this should have formed a large circle. And this is going to be the size of our bodice. Moving on to row 1, I'm going to chain and turn my work. Beginning into the second chain, we are going to be working double crochets into each chain all the way around. To work a double crochet, you simply want to yarn over. Then you want to insert your hook into this very second chain, Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going to do this with you guys again. Just yarn over, insert your hook into that next chain, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert your hook into that next chain, pull through 2, and then pull through 2. And now just keep on working these double crochets into each chain all the way around. And then I'm going to meet you guys back once I have reached the end of my work. So once you have finished working these double crochets all the way around your chain, to join each row, all we're going to do is just slip stitch into this very first stitch to join. So I'm just going to yarn over and just pull through to join this row, just like this. From here, you want to once again chain 2, and then just turn your work. Beginning on row 2, these 2 chains do not count as the first stitch, so beginning into this very first stitch, we're going to be working those double crochets just as you normally would, and you're going to do that into each stitch all the way around. Once I reach the end, I'm going to show you guys how to join the row one more time, but I'm just going to finish working these double crochets and then I'll see you guys back in a little bit. Once you have reached the end, we're going to do the same thing that we did for row 1. So just going to slip stitch into this very first stitch to join this row. Just like this, chain 2 and turn your work. So to continue this pattern for our bodice, you want to repeat row 2 with these double crochets, making sure to slip stitch into that first stitch to join, chain 2 and turn. You want to do that until you have a total of 18 rows for your bodice, that you can make this however long you would like. But I'm going to work up my 18 rows and then I'm going to see you guys back once I am all done. So I have made it back here with my 18 rows working these rounds of double crochets, as you guys can see. Once you have all of your rows complete, we're not going to cut and fasten off just yet. We're actually going to move directly to working the skirt from here. So let's go ahead and get started on the skirt. So now we're going to be working on the skirt. After you have made this chain of 1 and turn your work, we're now going to be doing an increase row for row 1. So into this very first stitch, we're going to do 1 regular double crochet. Now into the very next stitch, instead of working 1 double crochet, we're going to do an increase, which is going to be 2 double crochets in the same stitch. So what I mean by that is just going to insert my hook, work 1 double crochet, and then into the very same stitch, work another double crochet. Just like this. Into the next stitch, work 1 regular double crochet. And now we're going to do another increase. So work 2 double crochets into the same stitch, and then back into that same loop. This is what it looks like. Now you want to repeat working 1 regular double crochet, increase, 1 double crochet, increase, and you want to do that all the way around until you have reached the end. Then you can of course slip stitch into that first stitch to join, chain 2 and turn. So I have just made it back here with my increase row. I did an increase every other stitch all the way around and then slip stitch to secure. Since we did those increases every other stitch, you should now have double the amount of stitches that we had previously for the rows. But to continue this pattern for our skirt, you do want to repeat regular double crochet rows that we were working for the bodice. You want to keep on repeating those double crochet rows until you have the length that you want your skirt to be. Since I'm not sure how many rows I want to do yet, I'm going to put the number of rows I did on the screen, or you can just wait until the next clip where I'm going to say how many rows I ended up doing. But I'm just going to work those regular double crochet rows, doing no increases until I have the desired length. So I'm going to work that up, and then I'll see you guys back once I am all done. So I have just made it back here, and I did a total of 22 rows for my skirt. So this is where we did the increase row on row 18, and then row 1 through row 22 is the end of our skirt. Once I reached the end, I did go ahead, cut and fasten off, and then just left a knot to tie that off. Once we are all done with the body portion and our skirt portion, we're now going to move on to working the sleeves. So now let's go ahead and get started on the sleeves. So now we're going to get started on working on the sleeves. So I'm going to first make a slip knot. And I have already completed one of my sleeves, so I'm just going to show you guys how to do the other side because it's exactly the same thing. The first thing that you want to do is just insert your hook where you think the shoulder straps are going to be. So I think it's about right here, and I did the same thing on the opposite side as well. Once you have inserted your hook where you think the straps should be, go ahead and slip stitch to secure. Now from here, we're going to be making a chain of 36. However, if your yarn is maybe a bit stretchier, or you just don't think the straps are long enough or short enough, then you can go ahead and make any even number of chains. Once you have finished your chain of 36, you want to make sure that your chain is not twisted at all. Once you have done that, you just want to go ahead and insert your hook into the opposite stitch of the back panel, just like this. Once again, slip stitch to secure. So this is what our strap is now looking like. Moving on to row 1, we're going to begin this with a chain of 2. I'm just going to get a little bit closer for you guys. I'm going to chain 2. Now into this first chain, I'm actually going to be working 1 regular double crochet. Just going to insert my hook. Into the next chain, I'm going to work an increase, so 2 double crochets. So here's my first double crochet. Then here's my second. Into the next chain, work 1 regular double crochet. And then 2 double crochets into the next one. From here, you want to repeat this pattern, working 1 double crochet and then 2 double crochets into the next chain. And then you just want to do that until you have reached the very end of your chain. So I'm going to meet you guys back once I have reached the end. Once you have reached the very end with your increases, now we're going to be moving on to the stitches that come all the way under the arm, and then we're going to join back once we reach the end. So beginning into this first stitch, instead of working a double crochet, we're just going to be working regular single crochets. And the reason why we're going to be doing the single crochets for the underarm portion is just so that the yarn doesn't bulk up under the arm section. So I'm just going to work these single crochets all the way around and then slip stitch to secure once I reach the end. So I have made it back here and I just finished working those single crochets. I then slip stitch to secure. Moving on to row 2, we're just going to chain 1. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch. And then just turn our work around. So basically for row 2, you just want to work single crochets where there's a single crochet stitch, and then work double crochets where there is a double crochet stitch all the way around until the end. Just to show you what that's going to look like. Into this first stitch, we're going to begin with single crochets. And just as I mentioned, I'm going to keep on working these regular single crochets until I reach the double crochets. So I'm going to work all the way around, and then I'll see you guys back once I reach the double crochets. And I just finished up working the single crochets coming under the arm. Moving on to the double crochet stitches, I'm going to work 1 double crochet in each stitch until I have made it to the end, slip stitch into that first stitch to join, chain 2, and then turn. So I have now finished working all the way around my row with these double crochets. I'm going to chain 2 and turn. Moving on to row 3, into this very first stitch, we're going to work a double crochet for each of these double crochet stitches. Once we reach the single crochet stitches, we're going to work single crochets each stitch around, slip stitch into that first stitch to join, chain 1, and turn your work. It's pretty much the same thing that we did for row 2, except now we're beginning with double crochets instead of single crochets. So I think I've already explained that, so I'm just going to meet you guys back for the next row. So I have just completed that last row, which is row 3. I slip stitch into that first stitch to secure, chain 1, and turned my work. Now to continue this pattern for our puff sleeve, you just want to repeat those last 2 rows, row 2 and row 3, until you have a total of 30 rows for your puff sleeve. I'm going to work up my 30 rows off camera, and then I'm going to see you guys back in a little bit. So I have just finished working my 30 rows, repeating row 2 and row 3. Our sleeve kind of looks a little bit weird so far, but once we work these next 2 rows, which are going to be 2 decrease rows, it'll look a little bit nicer. So moving on to our next 2 rows, which is going to be 31 and row 32. Beginning into this first stitch, we're actually going to be working a double crochet decrease. To work a double crochet decrease, just yarn over, insert your hook into this first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert your hook into this next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3, and then yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going to do this again with you guys. You just want to yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, insert your hook into that next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3, yarn over, pull through 2. Now you want to work these double crochet decreases into each stitch all the way around until you have reached the end, slip stitch into that first stitch to join, chain 2 and turn. So I have just finished working these double crochet decreases into each stitch all the way around until the end. Stitches, I'm just going to slip stitch to secure, chain 2 and turn. Now for row 32, you want to do the same thing that we did for row 31, beginning into this first stitch, double crochet decrease into each stitch all the way around, slip stitch to secure, chain 2 and turn. So we have officially finished up our first puff sleeve for our sweater. Now once you have finished this decrease, we're not going to cut and fasten off. We're actually going to move it directly to doing the last part of our sleeve, which is going to be the bell sleeve with some increases. So now let's go ahead and get started on that section. So now we're going to be moving on to working the bell sleeve for our sleeve. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do an increase row. And what this increase row is going to be, we're going to do 1 double crochet and then 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, all the way around. So you just want to do an increase every other stitch and then slip stitch to secure. And I'll see you guys back once I'm at the end. So once you have finished this first row of increases, I worked an increase every other stitch. Now we're going to do three more rows, and these 3 rows are just going to be regular double crochet rows, nothing fancy at all, no increases. So from row 2 to row 4, 3 more rows, you just want to work regular double crochets. And then so I'm just going to go ahead and work up my 3 rows, and then I'm going to see you guys back for row 5. So I have now made it back here with my 4th row. We did an increase for the first row, and then we did 3 regular double crochet rows and nothing weird at all. Now we're going to be moving on to row 5. This is going to be another increase row, but it's going to be a little bit different. Instead of doing an increase every other stitch, we're actually going to be doing an increase every 3rd stitch. To show you what that, guys, is going to look like, I'm going to work 2 double crochets. And then into this 3rd stitch, I'm going to do that increase. Here's my second one. Once again, work 2 double crochets. And then an increase into the 3rd stitch. Now you just want to repeat doing this pattern into each stitch all the way around, and then join it once you reach the end. Once you have finished doing that increase, doing an increase every 3rd stitch. To continue this pattern, once again, you want to work 3 more regular double crochet rows, just as we did for the previous increase row. So I'm going to work up 3 regular double crochet rows, and then I'm going to see you guys back for the next increase row. I have made it back here once again with my 3 regular double crochet rows. Now we're going to do another increase row. And so for the first row, for the first increase row, we did an increase every other stitch, or every 2nd stitch. For the next increase row, we did 1 every 3rd stitch. And now for this increase row, we're going to do an increase every 4th stitch. To show you what that's going to look like, into this first stitch I'm going to work 3 double crochets. This is 2, 3. Now into this fourth stitch you want to do that increase. And then the same thing, work 3 double crochets. And then increase into this fourth stitch. Now, as usual, you just want to do this all the way around until the end. But since I've pretty much already explained everything for the end of our sleeve, as I mentioned, you want to continue the pattern doing an increase row, then 3 double crochet rows, an increase row, 3 double crochet rows, increase row, then 3 double crochet rows until you have a total of 20 rows for your sleeve. Keep in mind that the increases are increasing by 1. So we did an increase every second stitch, every third stitch, then this is every fourth stitch. The next one will be every fifth, sixth stitch, and so on. So I'm going to work up my 20 rows and then I'm going to cut and fasten off once I have reached the end with you guys. Alrighty guys, so I have made it back here with my 20 rows for my sleeve with these increases. Now I did cut and fasten off once I reached the end, and I also repeat the same exact process on the opposite side as well, because you of course want 2 sleeves, just like this. Now that is pretty much the end of our pattern. The last thing you want to do is just weave in all of your loose ends, and that would be the end of the tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I hope to see you guys back next time. Bye! If you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. If you bought this pattern, it would be super helpful if you left a positive review. Well, that's all guys. Bye!